Hi everyone, good morning. So welcome to the session. Just give me 2 minutes, we'll get started. Yeah,
Sir,
yeah,
can you cover two things? Like I had problems. It means in random library and like time library, which method should I know? Like,
random and time.
yeah,
See, I would say you don't need to explicitly. Hello,
yeah,
hello.
you're audible.
I'm audible, right? Okay, so because yeah, so this you don't need to specifically memorize any particular method in either of these libraries. The reason I'm saying is if any such method comes in the exam, right, you will also be provided the some kind of a hint on what that method does. For example, if you are using,
Can you list out the main methods, like if possible, like the commonly used random and time libraries methods?
in fact, we have used only two mainly. So randint is one, and for time. I don't think we have used or anything else is more important than these two.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So this session will be more along the lines of some kind of general things. The last time we introduced, if you remember, we looked at one problem regarding files.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So where we had a lot of trouble. So I'll just quickly go over it. That it will be a general few few interesting observations regarding files, which I think we should all know about. So I will start by creating a file here. Let's say it is file1.txt. Okay, file1.txt is going to have just the number 1 on the first line, and there is only one line in the file which has number 1. Okay, file2.txt is going to have 1, and then I'm going to press an enter. Okay, so remember these two files. File 1 is just having this number 1 on the first line. File 2 has 1, and then I have pressed enter. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and read these two files, file1.txt and file2.txt. Okay, so L1 is going to be the lines in file 1, and L2 will be the lines or the file 2, contents of file 2. So if I run this and see what L1 and L2 are. Okay, so notice that these two are different by exactly one character, which is that slash n. Okay, so length of, if you try to say, ask what is length of L1. Okay, and that is 1, which is the single number which we entered, and length of L2 is 2, right? So it is the number 1 along with the slash n, which is really nothing but this new line, right? So because we press this enter, slash n character was added. Okay, now the question that was actually confusing, at least me, in the last session was how many lines does file 2 have and how many lines does file 1 have? Okay, so I'm still sort of not very, I wouldn't say that the answer is clear and absolutely definitive on this. But if you look at it from as a human reading this file, we can see that there are 2 lines in it, right? There are 2 lines in the file. First line has the number 1, second line is an empty line. So there is nothing in the second line, but at least visually we can see 2 lines in the file. Okay, and these 2 files are clearly different. So that is something that I want you all to take away, that file1.txt and file2.txt differ by exactly 1 character, which is this /n, and that is why visually we see that an extra empty line is added after the first line. Okay, so this was one of the points of confusion. Let me actually go back and tell you what the question was last time, in case some of you didn't attend last session. So this is the file that we were writing to. I will just delete these 2. We had created a file called mock.txt, and roughly this is the idea. So let's write the first 6 numbers to the file. F.write, let's say I'm writing the number I with /n. Okay, so the question that was asked was how many lines does this file mock.txt?
So you need to write your reading.
Oh yeah, thank you. So the question that was asked was how many lines does mock.txt have? Okay, so again, so this is kind of a confusing question. I would say that this is an ill-posed question, right? What I mean by ill-posed question is we have to be clear about what we mean by number of lines. So, for example, if I try to read this file again, right, using, I mean, all this we discussed in the last session, in case some of you are wondering why I am randomly pulling these things up. There were some very important observations made by some students, and this is a result of that. So if I actually try to read the lines using this method, right, lines equal to f.read lines, let's just read the same file. And if you look at lines, there are only 5 elements in it. Okay, and the last element is 5/n. Okay, so if you were to say that the length of the file is given by length of lines, then according to this particular stream of logic, it would say 5 lines. But if you open it and look at it, there would be 6 lines, whereas the last line is an empty line. Okay, so this is how I will finally close this particular problem. What I would say is, in this course, right, and generally as a good practice, as a good convention, we should never end the file using a /n. Okay, so it's a convention. Please take that as a convention that we should never write the last line as a with a new line character. So that will unnecessarily introduce a dangling empty line, which will only confuse us later on. So as a matter of practice, as students, you also avoid the /n, and as instructors, we will also avoid using this particular, this is like a very narrow corner case, and we will certainly not have questions which ask you how many lines are there in the file and trick you into this kind of thing, right? So that we will avoid. And you also avoid writing a new line at the end of your file. That can get very confusing.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So in this case, there are 6 lines because there is lesson.
Yeah, so see that again, I would say that's why I told you, right? I am not like thoroughly convinced what should be the. So I would say there are 6. Yes, there are 6 lines because both visually and as far as your files are concerned, right? That there is one extra empty line at the end. This is different from the file, say, which
Sir,
does not have this last line, because
Sir, can
yes,
you please explain the graded assignment 9 question number 6?
actually, I have one doubt in this. One doubt.
yeah,
Actually, when before you created file 2.txt, right?
yeah,
At that time, you read the length of that length. It showed 2, right?
yeah,
Like 1/n.
yeah,
But here also there are 1/n, 2/n, 3/n, right?
yeah, yeah,
Then in that logic, it should show 10, right? Because 5 and /n are 1 and 4 and /n are 2, right?
yeah, it should show 10. Yeah.
But it's showing 5. Why? Can I
No, no.
know?
See, here we are reading the number of lines, right? So if I had used the read method and tried to, I would say this is not lines, but this is just the entire file. Now, if you try to do length of file, right? Length of file, that would be 10 characters. So the length of lines that you saw earlier is the length of the list, or the. So this is different from f.read, right?
Can you
Did
just
you did you get the difference?
yeah, sir, but I have a small doubt because it's showing as a, single string, right?
Yeah, it is reading lines at a time, right? It's not reading character by character, but it is reading. See, lines, read lines. What it does is it'll read the entire content on the first line, including the slash n. If there is a slash n, it'll always be there. Like first line will always have a slash n. The last line could either have a slash n or not have a slash n. That depends on how we have written, how the file is actually present. So if you try to read this file, this does not have a slash n at the end, but this particular file has a slash n at the end.
That I got it, sir. My doubt was here it also showing in 5/n as a single string here in the list. I mean
Yeah,
single item.
yeah,
And when we do a read also, it is showing 5/n as a single string. Then, but we do the length, it is showing 2 characters. Okay, okay. This is one entity, and it has 2 characters. That I got it now. Okay, sir.
okay, okay.
Got it. Got it.
Sir, for graded assignment 9, the question 6 should not be 11 lines.
Yeah, that particular question we will clarify on the forum. We will send you a response. Okay, and if there is, I think that is also based on the number of lines, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if there is some confusion like this, whatever I have just pointed out, right? We will certainly look into it. Okay. See, the
Okay,
other
sir.
thing that is also confusing is I'll just do this. Okay, so this ends up creating an empty file. I have just opened it and closed it. So how many lines does this have? I mean, so I would say there are 0 lines. There are no lines in the file. But then I could also argue that there is one empty line.
Yes,
So is it 1 or is it 0? So these are like, I would say these are very pedantic details, and ideally we should stick to some convention, and that convention is do not have the last line end with a slash n. Uh, what I mean by that is, if you have a file with 5 lines, then it should end like this. It should not end this way. That is part of convention. We'll be following this from now on. In case we have not followed this in one of the questions, we will clarify it. Okay.
okay, sir.
Okay, so there was one more point which I think who's that? I should get your name. Nitish, I believe. So he pointed out this point, which was,
Yes, sir, it's me.
yeah.
I'm here.
What I will do is I will bring that up also. So I made a mistake in the last session. So mock.txt. Note that we are now sticking to this convention of having 5 lines without a slash n at the end. Okay, so there are 5 lines in the file. Here it is totally unambiguous. So I'm reading this file and I want to find the number of lines in this file. So I set to one count variable, and for whatever reason I say that this is how I'm doing it. And I say count is increment count. Okay. And then I go ahead and read the next line. I'm sorry, too many mistakes. Yeah. Let's separate the two. So someone who didn't attend the last session, can you try to?
So you need to write f dot read line there after start.
Yeah. Right. No. I'm just trying to replicate whatever code that I wrote last time. So I just want someone who didn't attend the last session to tell me what the answer for this could be if I print this.
Sir, you need to initialize count also, no? Count is not initialized.
Yeah. Okay, so sorry, I have to print count. So if I print count, so what will I get if I run this? This is the file. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5.
Okay, let's run it and see. Okay, so we get 6, and so there is a flaw in the logic used to count the lines. Okay, so what we are doing is this is what the flaw was last time and this time around. So every time we read a line, we are incrementing count. So there is no problem. The problem comes when we reach the end of file, right? So after we read the last line, right? After we read 5, count will also be 5. We go back. So line equal to 5. So it is true. It enters, and then count becomes 6. And it's only then that we read the last line, which is the end of line. So f dot read line then returns the empty string or the null string. But by the time we have incremented count by one more, so we have count becomes 6. Okay. So I hope you all got what the mistake in this particular piece of code was.
So if we interchange the line 5 and 6, it will give right result.
No, interchanging it won't solve the problem. So I just see one thing you have to understand that they are coupled. These two lines are coupled. Okay, that is, they are so in this case, right, whatever happens to line 6 will happen to line 5, in the sense that uh, these two are independent of each other, right? They are going
Sir,
to
we
be,
can initialize the count with -1, right?
yeah. So the fixes, yeah, I will come to the fix in a while, but the fix is
Something can I ask, sir?
not interchanging the lines. So as mentioned, we could either set count to -1 and then it will work. Okay, or if we can read the first line to start with, and then just say that count is 0. But I have read the first line, so let me increment count. So again, order doesn't matter, but it's easy on the mind if we write it this way. Okay, so this will also work.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so thanks for pointing it out,
Sir,
Nitish, in last session.
Can I ask one thing? Like, if
Yeah.
if in this logic, like we are introducing a blank line and then a value like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 slash in, that means next line, then 5. Okay.
Okay.
So what will be the value of count? Like 4, one more line. Yeah.
And then 5 you want, or you don't want 5?
5 I want. Like, yeah.
This will work, right? I mean, this in between slash n, it's fine. You will get 6 as the answer.
Why means read line is taking portion before slash in, or like it is taking only the like 5 slash in, so it is taking 5 means 3 slash in, so it is taking 3 and slash in, or only 3?
It will take with slash n. So what we can do is, instead of we can append this to a list so that it will improve can. So I need another append here, or maybe I can just move this append inside. Will that work? Is this going to work? Let's see. Okay, see. So when I read using the read line, I will read the entire thing on the first line along with the slash n.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Yeah. So to summarize, let us avoid having a dangling slash n. By that I mean a last slash n on the last line as a matter of convention and also good practice. Okay, in case in the future when you read files which have this kind of thing, you have to be wary, and you can you could always find that by doing this, right? You could so for example, you could just read the whole file and ask what the last character is. So for example, if I do this, okay, printing it won't help because I won't be able to see the slash n, so I'll have to see what the last character is. Okay, so if I try to see what it is, it will be a slash n because I have added this empty line here. Okay, so I think that's enough of this level of detail, but I think this was a good exercise for all of us.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, for mock test of afternoon quiz, what is the code of question 13 and 14?
Yeah. Right. Sorry. Yeah. So that we have to make that change. And we haven't made that change, right? So one second, I will just take it up.
Okay,
Mock quiz 2. Yeah, so this is the code. It's actually a very small piece of code. Maybe you can take a screenshot of it. I will also post this in the forum, but we will very soon we will like update it in the.
okay, sir.
Okay, so that is that, and what we will do is for some time we'll just try to run some kind of prepare as a preparation for the quiz. Okay, and let's say this is one of the questions that you have, right? And you have to find the output of this piece of code. Okay, so treat this as say a quiz preparation or quiz question. Okay, so can you tell me what you can post it in the chat. Can you tell me what the answer is going to be? Okay, I think most of you have got it. So let's just run this and see if you have all got the correct answer. Okay, so why does this happen? Can someone tell me the logic behind this?
The p x minus 1 is just giving the index, like for when the value is 1, x minus 1 will give 0, and in turn the p x minus 1 will be 1 itself.
Okay. Okay. So you are essentially shifting by 1 to the left, right? So q of 1 will be p of 0. Q of 2 will be p of 1. Q of 3 will be p of 2, and so on. Okay, but any doubts here? Any?
One more thing, like
Yeah.
here also in the CMD matlab console, like after 5 a slashing should be there, no? Like
Yeah, so after 5 we have a slash n. That's why we are getting on to the next line.
okay.
Okay, so let's also go ahead and visualize the dictionary queue. Yeah, so the dictionary queue is going to be 1 map to 1, 2 map to 2, 3 to 3, 4 to 4, and 5 to 5. Okay, so probably we shouldn't be using replit to answer these types of questions, because that makes it kind of easy, and this help won't be there in the quizzes. Right, so everyone okay with this particular problem? What's happening here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, next is there is one more question here. This is more of okay, so here I can't run it, so I assume that this is another question. L is a list of strings. Now if I ask you, the question is, what does count represent, or what is particular piece of code printing?
So it is palindrome word with a length of 5 characters. No.
Okay, others?
Sir, it is counting the words which have 5 characters, and
And
the
first and last
character and last character are same.
character are also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the number of words which have the same first and last character and are of length
Is 5.
5. Okay. Okay, so roughly questions will be along these lines, not exactly the same, but you can expect something along these lines. All right, so now for some time, if you folks have any questions, we can work on them. We can discuss them. Do you have any conceptual questions with collections or functions, or any piece of code that you are having trouble with? Yeah, so see, you have
I
to
have a doubt.
yeah.
Like in the yesterday's submission date, right, for the assignment
Okay.
last week's. The first GRPA one, only two test cases are passing for me. Hidden test cases. And I know what's third test case.
Okay. So yeah, we will get to that. We'll get back to that. But for now, I think it will be better if we can have some kind of discussion which will be more helpful for the quiz, I would say. We'll get back to that. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Nitish, okay. Yeah.
Sir, suppose we have a file
Okay.
which has 4 lines of
Okay.
anything. Then if we type the code for line in file.readLine, print
Okay.
line,
Okay, you have a file which has 4 lines, is it?
Yes.
Okay, file.
Any number of lines.
Okay. Say, okay, let's say 4 lines. Okay.
So if we do for line in file.readLine,
In file, okay, in file dot. Okay, let's say we don't have access to the console. Yeah, you tell me no. Yeah. Let's say we do for line in file dot read lines,
print line.
print line. Okay.
So what it will do for every print line, it will go to a new line and print.
Yeah, for every print line, it
And,
will go to a new line and print.
and
But
for
there is a
also
catch.
slash
Yeah.
n, it will go another new line.
Yeah, it will also add another new line.
Okay, so while we are printing the file, for the first line, it will, for slash n, it will go to the next line. And because of print line statement, it will go to another line. Is
Yeah,
it right?
there will be an extra new line printed between successive lines.
Okay. So, second.
Okay, so maybe general questions, it's a bit tough to come up with, I can understand. So what we will do is, let's just go over
What
all.
if we keep end equals to, empty string? Will it print in the next line only?
No, if you keep end equal to empty string, it will not have the extra line in between. Okay, so it will not have an extra new line between successive lines. You will print the contents of the file just as they are. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go probably week by week and try to quickly cover whatever is there in each of these weeks. Okay, or maybe topic by topic is better. So in collections, what all should we know? So we have list, dictionary, set, and tuple, right? So a list, I think you have done it a lot of times, but two important things that you must know is few important things that you must know, right? How do you initialize lists? Well, let's start with that. So L equal to open close bracket, as we all know. The other way is this is also a valid initialization for a list. Okay, and these two are sufficient. Okay, so these are the ways to initialize a list. How do we grow a list? Okay, how do we grow a list?
Hello, sir.
Just 1 second, I'll just finish this list portion and then I will take your question. Okay, so how do we grow a list? Once you have created it, again you can say for I in whatever, say range of 10, you do L dot append. So append is something that you folks have to know. There is no escaping this. We won't tell you what append is during the exam. So some certain things you need to rely on your memory. Okay, so the other way to append or to add to a list is L plus I, right? So you just concatenate two lists using the plus operator. Okay, so this is another important thing you must know. Okay, growing a list, initializing a list, and yeah, no, yeah, someone was asking me a question.
Sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, when we are initializing a empty list in line 4,
Yeah.
sir, there is a if there will be a difference when if there is a space or not.
No, yeah. So you can either have it or not have it. It kind of increases the readability if you have a space. So both are fine.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so that is with respect to initialization and reading a list, growing a list. Two different ways. One is using append, another using concatenation. So these two are must as far as lists are concerned. Now, what about the other thing is iterating through a list, right? So let's say you have a list like this. You must know both the methods of iterating through the list. One is the for each kind for x in L print X. This is something that corresponds to the for each thing in CT, right? You directly pick up the element X from the list and then print it to the console. The other way is for using the size of the list or using the range function. For I in range of length of L, you print the ith element. So this uses the index of the list. Okay, and if you want to use the index of the list, you have to iterate through the sequence represented by range of the size of the list. Okay, so there are like two ways of going through a list. One is using for each kind of thing, and another is using the range function. Okay, so that is iterating through a list. Okay, so we have seen how to initialize and how to grow a list, and then how to iterate through a list. Next, we will take up dictionary, unless you have any questions in list. Okay, so dictionary we can initialize in two ways again. Okay, either using the simple open and close brackets or using the dict function. Okay, both are valid initializations for a dictionary. So once initialization is done, how do we grow a dictionary? Growing a dictionary. Let's say we want to map numbers to their squares, right? So 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, whatever, right? So this, let's say we want to grow this dictionary. One thing that is important is from where are we going to get our keys. So maybe our keys are going to come from a list. Okay, so keys maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for each key in keys, we can simply go ahead and say P of that key is key square. Okay, so this is one way to grow a dictionary. The other way is to explicitly specify it. So I could just say 1 is mapped to 1, 2 is mapped to 4, 3 is mapped to 9, and so on. Okay, so this is the other way of specifying the dictionary. All right, so these are two ways in which you can grow a dictionary. The next is iterating through a dictionary. So how do you iterate through a dictionary? Again, there are like different ways depending on what kind of operation you want to perform. So the first and most easiest way is for key in P. Okay, you directly iterate through the keys of the dictionary. You say you just want to print the key and its corresponding value. Okay, so that could be the simplest and most important thing that you must know, that we are iterating through the keys of the dictionary this way. You could also make it slightly more explicit by saying that I am going through the keys of the dictionary by using p.keys. Okay, so this is again important to know. And finally, you might also want to go through the keys and values at the same time. So for key comma value in p.items, print the key and value. Okay, so both these snippets of code do the same thing, but here we use the items method and here we use the keys method of the dictionary. Okay, so I hope these three ways are very clear. So you need to know for key in P, print key comma P of key. So all three snippets of code are equivalent. 11, 12, 14, 15, 17, 18 all do the same thing. Okay, so but all these are valid ways, and this is something you must know.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So what is p.items returning? Key
Okay,
value
so
pair?
Yeah, what is p.items? So p.items is what is called a view. So the technical details are not important, but it just returns a list of tuples. Okay, see, it's you see that it's a list inside, and each element of the list is a tuple. Okay, and the first
Okay, sir.
element of the tuple is the key, and the second element of the tuple is the corresponding value in the dictionary.
Here we can put brackets also, na, like for key comma value. Like if even it is written as a tuple, for tuple key comma value in p.items, it will mean the same.
Sorry, can you come again?
For key comma value, I can put parenthesis within key comma value. Like
Okay,
it will still be the same.
you are essentially unpacking the tuple. Yeah. Yeah, maybe you could write it this way so that it improves readability.
So I have a doubt.
Yeah.
So can we have a list as an item in tuple?
No. So list as an item in tuple will throw you. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yeah, in sets only you can't have. In tuples you can. So for example, what does it say? Let's try this. Tuple T. Let's try if we can do that. So this works. So maybe, so that's a good point. We'll come to that. There are some few things that we need to take note of there. When we come to tuple, we will discuss that. Okay, so dictionary part, it's okay, right?
We
So
can also do it like key comma value in list of p.items.
yeah, we could also do that. That will also work. But that's like adding more lines of code. That's why
No, because like sometimes actually what happens is 4 option will be there and some option will have modification. So the same thing but like modified form.
yeah, right. I get it. Yeah, that also will work. So see, this p dot keys is it returns what is called a view. Okay. P dot keys will return, it will not directly return a list. If you look at the type of the thing, it's not a list. Okay, but you can convert it to a list, as you said. uh, that will work for all, in fact for all the methods. So p dot items, and we also have, okay, we missed one thing here, which is p dot values. So for key in p dot, for value in p dot values, print value. So this will just print value. So there's no way you can access the key from this. In case for whatever reason you just want to go through the values present in the dictionary. Let's say there is a question which asks you what is the maximum value among all the key value pairs in the dictionary. So in that case, right, you don't need the keys. You just need to iterate over the values. So in such a scenario, you could use this.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, in line 18, if we write print value comma key, then it will just interchange with key and value, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
P dot values will be unique or like if it can have repeated elements.
Okay, that's a good question. I have actually never tried that. And honestly, let's try it out now. Okay, so this question we can be assured that we won't ask, because this I also don't know the answer to, and this can be very tricky. So what does it do? Okay, it doesn't matter. It allows duplicates. So it's like the list of all values, not the set of values, but the list of values.
Okay.
Okay, but good point, because this could be a bit confusing. But p dot keys, that will not have duplicates, right? So that
Anyway,
is,
key is unique, like we can't have
yeah.
duplicates.
But p dot values allows duplicates in the sense that it will have every value corresponding to the key in the dictionary. Okay, so that is dictionaries. Any questions here?
One more thing, like you have covered list and dictionary. So like sometimes what we happens is like what we do is start we use means what to say repetition operated. Okay, like we will just do a list and multiply it by 5. Okay, and that thing. So there sometimes what is comes is mutability, and that like if we will update one value, then it will be updated in all lists, something like that. Like 0 cross means 0 list into 5. Okay, and like I am updating of that 0th value, but all those things will get updated.
Okay.
Same address, something like mutable.
Yeah. So if you take a list, let's say L equal to this, right, and you say 5, and if you update only the 0th element, right, the others are not going to get updated here.
But like if I'm doing it like a list of means like 0 cross 5 cross 5 I'm doing.
Yeah. So if you're going to do a list of lists, I mean, if you're going to have a mutable entity here, right, let's say something like this. Okay, and I love 0, 10 will throw an error, but mm, uh, or will it throw an error? I mean, let's just run
No,
this
it
again.
won't throw an error. List
Let's
is
just
mutable.
reassign it to that. So this is not a problem, but L of 0, 0, right, equal to 10. That, as you said, is a dangerous thing to do. Let it finish loading. Is it failing to connect? Okay, so this will be a problem. Oh, this is not a problem. I thought this is going to.
We have not done L
I
of
have
0,
not.
0.
Okay, okay. Okay, so this gets
That's
broadcasted to all the other entities, right? That's because when you try to replicate this, what you're doing is you are creating a list with 5 objects. I mean, 5. You are replacing the same object 5 times. So 1 comma 2 is an object. Okay, and let's so L of 0 is now it has become 10 comma 2, but let me like slightly elaborate by going to the console. So a list of 5 comma 2 is, let's say this is the object, right? So L of 0 is 5 comma 2. So we have something called identity, right? You would have seen this. You might have seen this.
ID of something, ID of that, like
Yeah.
will return the pointer to that.
Yeah.
Not
So
directly pointer, but address. Yeah.
right. So this will return the, let's say, the object's identity, and the identity is something unique for every object. And ID of, and again, paste the list here. L of 0 is this item, and ID of L of 0 is yeah, something, right? So if I do L equal to, okay, so now it will change. Now the ID will change, but let's start from the beginning. So this is L. Okay, let's look at the ID of each of the individual elements. So notice that all of them have the same identity, or slightly more technical way of saying that is that they all share the same memory location. Okay, if that seems confusing, just stick to this identity business. L of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, all of them are essentially the same container. Okay, you are just placing the same container 5 times. So if I change any one of them, say I'm changing the value of this of this particular index in the list to 100, what will happen is that since the 5 comma 2 is the same container throughout, that every such container will reflect this value here, because they all share the same id, right? So these are all the same objects appearing at different places, that's all. Okay, so so the answer or the important point here is, if you are trying to replicate something which is mutable, then you will end up with this problem. Whereas if you try to do with something like this, if you change L of 0, the remaining won't be affected, because 0 is immutable, right? 0 is just an integer. It's affecting or changing one value here is not going to change everything, all other values in the list. But if you are going to say something like this, right, and notice that the two are different things, right? So L of 0, 0, 100 means I'm going to affect every single element in the list. Okay, is that?
Yes, sir. Like one more thing, like can you just tell once again like which types are mutable and which are immutable?
Yeah, so list and dictionary and set, so these are all mutable.
Okay.
And tuple
Integers,
and
that.
string integers, yeah, and all the other basic types we have seen are immutable. So the main mutable things are list and dictionary, I would say, because we will deal with them more often. The main mutable types are list and dictionary. Okay, so we were where were we? We were at this point discussing iterating through a dictionary's keys, key value pairs, and then values. Okay, so that is where we left. Okay, so we can now, if we move on to sets, so it's very important to note this difference. This is not a set. Okay, this is not the way to initialize a set, because if you type if you print the type of s, you will get this as a dictionary, right? So Python will never get confused between this and a set, right? So Python is always clear in knowing that simply having empty and closed brackets will correspond to a dictionary. Okay, so the only way to initialize a set is, I mean, there are two ways. If you The only way to initialize an empty set is this. Okay, so there is no other way you can get an empty set into action. If in case you have some idea about what the elements of the set are, maybe first few elements, then you can always do this, right? Let's say you have a set of numbers and you know that 0 is going to be in that set, so this will work. Okay, but otherwise just having the open and close brackets, you must be aware that it's only a dictionary. Okay, so that is creating a set object, and growing a set is quite simple. You must know how to grow the elements. Grow a set dot add will just take care of that. Okay, and as before, sets do not have duplicates, so even if I try to add say 1 10 times, we are going to end up with just the set containing the element 1. Okay, That is with set, growing a set. We can also iterate through sets, right? So that is the advantage of sets again. For x in S, print x. Okay, so the point to note here is this operation is allowed, but the main difference between is this won't work, right? So for I in the range of length of okay, so tell me one thing. So where do you think the error is in line? Is it here somewhere in this range of length of S, or is it in this line?
Line 10, because index is not defined for sets.
Okay, yeah. So this is perfectly valid. Range of length of S. So if you notice, length of S is very much defined, and range of length of S is also valid. What is not valid is indexing, trying to index into a set. Okay, so yeah, the other thing which kind of I missed out on, so that is about sets, I believe. So something common between all four, I would say, is this important point that we can iterate through all of them, all the collections, right? And that is one important common point between the lot. The second is the length function is defined for all of them. Okay, so length for a list is very clear. Length for a tuple is also quite clear. Set is also clear. For dictionaries also there is a length defined for it. So does anyone know what that is?
Number of
It will
keys.
be the length of keys.
Number of keys.
So length of p is also valid. It is the number of keys. So here if we print len of p, it will give us 2. Okay, so length is also defined for all of them, and we can also iterate through all of them. So these are two very important common points. Before I forget, yeah. So now let's go through tuples.
One thing, like I have posted something in chat box, like it is
Okay.
related to this only, like the code. Like, could you just tell me why it's happening? Like, it's
Okay.
again due to mutable and immutable concept, but like,
Okay, I will just paste it here.
yeah, the 6 and 7 line is that's out.
Okay, so A is 1, 2, B is 1, 2. Okay, let's run this. So you are getting false here and true here, is it?
Yes.
Okay, so see this A and B here. See, there is a difference between identity and equality. Okay.
Yeah, is and like yeah, double equal to.
Yeah, so they are A and B are equal, but they do not share the same identity. That's why you are getting this as false.
Why it is not sharing the same identity?
Because every time you create a new list, right, you create a new list object having some other memory location. See, if they share the same identity, what will happen is if I change A, then I will accidentally change B, right? So by design, I don't want that. So a programmer could want to store the same list
Basically,
contents in two different variables, right? There
but
is
like,
no, yeah.
so should C and D, like the same thing could be set for C and D. Like if I'm doing C plus is equal to 1, C. So in like if it is something like that, like C is that signed a new address again.
Okay, see, if I see C and integers are immutable, so I am not going to go and change the value of one as it is, right? So,
Okay, got it. Now got it.
okay, so this can be a bit tricky, but yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
So this is just for immutability and mutability, right? So if it's mutable, the location where the variable is stored may be different, and if it's immutable, if the values are the same, then it's stored in one place. Is that so?
Yeah, so the identity will so each object has an identity, right? So this one is also an object as far as Python is concerned. So if you look at type of one, you will appreciate this better after week 10 videos. I mean, after week 10 is completed. So each object has an identity, and that will be retained throughout the program's run. Okay, and as you pointed out, as if it is mutable, then if you are going to change something inside that object, and if you are going to have some other name for the same object, then for example, what I'm maybe not very clear here. So what I mean is, if you have an object which is mutable and you have a different name for the same object, which is B, changing either B or A will affect the object that it points to. Okay, is that clear, or have I confused you even more?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so maybe can you repeat your question?
No, I meant so since a list is mutable, the location where it's stored, if the lists are the same and I assign it to two different variables, they're stored in two different locations, right? They're not stored in one place. So this same concept will be applied not just to lists but any mutable thing, right?
Yeah, any mutable entity, if you're going to store the same value but in two different variables, then they are like independent of each other.
Yeah, so it is applicable for dictionary as well.
Dictionary also, yeah. So if you say A equal to 1, 2, and if you not say B equal to A, then you are just having one object and working with that. So now A and B are two different objects, even though they have the same value.
Yes. Good.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So, sir, set has no default index, right? Always we have to initialize.
Yeah, no default index. Can you tell me, like, so by default does it have any? Okay, oh, there's index. You mean no set or dictionary?
S of 0, S of 1, like this.
No. Yeah, sets have no index whatsoever.
But all dictionary list all has index, default index.
See, list has an index. I mean, you can index a list, but dictionary, I wouldn't say indexing it. Yeah, but to some extent you can. But these are, I would say, user-defined indices, right? I mean, keys. That's what we mean by keys, right? It can't be anything. So for example, it can't be 0, 1, 2, 3 that we associate with lists. So in that sense, I would reserve the keyword list index with a list. Lists can be indexed, but not lists and tuples support indexing. But I would not say that dictionaries support indexing in that way. So for example, if you have a dictionary like this, right, and if you try to iterate through this just like you would do in a list, right, for I in range of length of A, you will end up getting not an index error but a key error. Okay, I mean here it's too obvious, but let me make the keys strings first to and call the dictionary D. So this is also D. Okay, so it will throw a key error and not an index error.
Yes, sir. Sir, also, sir, string is immutable, right?
Yeah.
And tuple also immutable.
Yes.
So only string and tuple are immutable. Otherwise, list, dictionary, set, all are mutable.
Yeah. So these first three are all mutable entities. Tuple alone is immutable.
And sir, also matrix is mutable.
Yeah. So matrix is just a list of. I mean, it depends on how you represent a
Nested
matrix.
list.
Yeah. See, there is again. So matrix in our course is mutable, I would say. But see, there is nothing called a matrix in Python, right? So I would just like to clarify that there is no matrix per se in Python. It all depends on how you are representing a matrix. So see, a matrix is a mathematical object and not a programming object, right? So it's not a Python object per se. So let's I could do something like this. I could say tuple, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9. Okay, so this is if I print T, this is also a matrix. I mean, in the general sense of the term, I can access, say, what is the first element in the second row. So second row will be T of 1, and this is the first element. Okay, so second row is 4, 5, 6. First element is 4. Okay, so this is all this. I mean, I can represent the matrix this way also, right?
Yes, sir.
Nothing stops me from representing it this way. If a matrix is represented as a list of lists, then the matrix is mutable. Again, I wouldn't say matrix is mutable, but it is, you have chosen to represent it in such a way that it has that mutability property. That's all I would say.
Yes, yes. Just like if we use list method, then it will be mutable. And if we use tuple method, then it will be not mutable.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I would say I would suggest you use the mutable word only with native Python objects and not objects that we derive out of them. It is not wrong, but it can get confusing.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And sir, also, what are the homogeneous and non-homogeneous object like Python? Can you discuss?
Homogeneous. Okay, so what we really mean by that is you can store different types of data in the same collection, and for example, could have a list having strings, integers, other lists, and maybe even dictionaries, right? So all this is possible. So this is what we mean by non-homogeneous. Homogeneous is where you have all items having the same type, right? So something like this would be homogeneous.
Okay, sir. So, what will be the example of homogeneous and non-homogeneous?
Yeah, so as I said, right, so in Python there is that classification is not very clear. So for example, lists can hold both homogeneous objects and non-homogeneous objects.
Is it depends on how I write it?
Yeah, it depends on what application you are using and what your need is at that moment.
But if it's not given, that in individual, what will be it?
There is, I mean, there is no restriction. See, the Python documentation, if
I am
you look,
asking in general case.
yeah, so if you look at the Python docs, so Python docs, I think it specifies that tuples are generally used for this non-homogeneous purposes, where you wish to store an assorted collection of items. But again, that's just a convention. You can break conventions. Typically, it's not a good practice to use non-homogeneous things, like having a list which has all sorts of things in it would it may not be the right thing. So dictionary would be better for that. So for example, if you want to say store student marks, name of the student, age of the student, these all require different types, right? The best way to do that would be to use a dictionary with key value pairs appropriately chosen.
Okay, sir.
One thing can ask, like,
Yeah.
the two things. Like, one thing is that what types of keys can be there in a dictionary? Like, can a key can be a list? Can a key can be a tuple? The thing, and the other thing is, like, one more thing was told that set can contain only the basic data types. What we include in the basic data type? Like, yeah, these are two questions.
Okay. So see, in set, when it comes to set and dictionary, you can only add things to it that are hashable. Okay, so this hashable business you actually don't need to know right now. And so if you have a set, let's say, you cannot add anything which is mutable to it, or which is hashable, which is not hashable. For example, if I try to add a list, okay, it will sorry, if I try to add a list to a set, it will throw the error saying unhashable type list. Okay, so it is enough if you know that there are entities, certain entities you should not add to sets, and what is the other one, and keys to dictionary. So okay, let me write it so it becomes slightly more clear. So keys for a dictionary and elements in a set. Keys in a dictionary and elements in a set. So both these folks should be hashable. But again, if I'm not going to explain what hashable means to you, that will only add to the confusion. So there is a slight workaround. Okay, so there is something which is not very accurate, but which is good enough for now, which is to say that keys of a dictionary should be immutable. Same way, elements in a set, you must make sure that you add only immutable entities. Okay, this is not 100% accurate because it's not the same. Immutable is not the same as hashable, but this much should be enough for this course in Python. Okay, so I'll just explain that. If you have a set, right, can I add a list to a set? If I go by this particular rule,
No.
elements in a set should be immutable. I cannot add a list to a set simply because a list is immutable. Sorry, what am I saying? A list is mutable. Okay,
One more
so
thing I want to ask, like,
yeah,
regarding this, like, we consider string to be immutable, okay, like,
yeah,
but actually, like, if I am writing is list A comma B comma C, okay, and is equal to string 1 2 3, okay, and A B C are three variables, so automatically it treats string as a list or string as a tuple, whatever we require, put on the left side.
I'm sorry. So sorry, I didn't get.
Like, I am writing something like this: A comma B comma C is equal to 1 2 3. Okay, or something like this: A comma B comma C is equal to 1 2 3. It automatically treats it like a list or tuple, whatever is required. I put in chat box.
Okay, I will. So what you're saying is A, B, C. Okay, does this work?
Yes.
Oh,
No, one comment means something common. Yes.
Okay.
Same for tuple also.
Sir, it is packing and packing, no?
Yeah. So you are unpacking this, but I don't see why we should have the brackets around it.
It is also in graded assignment question.
Oh, is it? Then I haven't looked at the grade assignment properly, I believe. So I would say, see, so there's this sequence. So this is tuple, the sequence unpacking. I would just suggest not to use the brackets, right, Aditya? So any sequence can be unpacked, okay? And when you're unpacking, the only thing you have to make sure is that the number of elements on the left is equal to the number of elements you are trying to unpack, right? So for example, this will throw an error because you don't have enough.
If I'm doing something like I'm doing a list, okay, I'm having a list, empty list or some list, okay, and I'm doing a plus is equal to string, so automatically it reads string. I'm not doing a list of string, means I'm doing automatically, I'm adding it as a string. So what it does is like it treats it as a string of characters. It was used in many graded assignments also.
Okay, can you repeat? I'm not getting the question.
I'm saying that I am taking a list, okay, like, and I am adding, like, I'm adding a plus equal to 1, 2, 3, okay. So what it will do is a is equal to 1, 1, 2, 3.
This I remember. I think this Preeto Deep also asked this question.
Yeah. I only answered that thing, but like that's why you told that it's packing and packing. So like the same thing is happening here also. Like
right. See, this I would say. I mean, this is playing with some very dark corners of the language, Aditya. So this is it's like I would say. Okay, it's good to know that the see, or actually what is happening is this plus operator is behaving in a certain way when it comes to sequences, right? So if you do this with, let's say, so a plus equal to 1, 2, 3, then what ends up happening is here the behavior is quite clear. It's simple list concatenation, but here the behavior is like you turn the sequence into a list of strings, right? Because this is a sequence and this admits of some operation like that. So I would say don't worry about this too much. This is like one very one corner aspect of the language which is not even used by most of us. Okay, is that clear? Is that fine?
yes, now got it.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, these are all like tricks, okay, like Python tricks that they are not like really, I would say, important. Coming back, this hashable, let us just resolve. Yeah, so lists, you cannot add a list to a set because it is mutable. Okay, and each lists are also not hashable. So if you run this, if you really want to see what this thing is, it would throw this error that list is not hashable or unhashable type list. Okay, what you can add to sets, what can be added? What can you add? Can add all your immutable types, say integer, string, float, bool. You can add tuple. You can also add, okay, tuple. I will qualify it. It's a bit dangerous. So all these can be your elements of a set. Okay. One tricky business is when you try to add tuples, right? This will work. So this won't throw any error, but you have to be very careful here. So if you try to add a tuple, maybe I will write it in separate line that has a list in it. Okay, so can you read this code? You have a set S and you are trying to add a tuple that has lists as the elements in it. Okay, so this will throw an error. Okay, so this is where the distinction between hashable and immutable comes into play. Okay, I would say don't break your head over all these things. And for now, you can, it's enough if you know that we can add integer, float, string as elements of set, right? And simple tuples like 1 comma 2. These can be your keys of your dictionary or elements of your set. More than this, I think you should not break your head. This, especially examples like this, where tuple of lists and all that, we will only add to the confusion.
Okay, got it. One more thing I want to ask: can you go to update method once? Like that question was asked, like given like update. I think 3 types of parameters are given. Like one as a tuple directly we are giving, or list of tuples, tuple with 2 values, or a dictionary update method. And one more is there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, yes,
That question was asked like in grade 2.
right. Ideally, we should not have had those questions in the assignment. See, the reason I'm saying that is there are, see, very soon the number of methods will just blow up, right? And it becomes hard. See, I confess that I am also struggling to remember all these methods, and it can get very tough unless you have access to a console. See, I actually don't know what update does, so what I'll do is I am going to do this. Okay, what does update do? It updates a key value pair, is it? I mean, if he is present, okay, see, I mean, I can assure one thing. Okay, so if this update is there in the exam, I am not saying it's going to be there or it's not going to be there. If update is there in the exam, then you will have a hint associated with update.
Like actually what happened was like it is asked like 4 option and like just like yeah.
Yeah, see what Professor Sudarshan mentioned, right? That this is a memory-based question. For example, pop item. I think someone asked in the forum also. Do we need to remember what pop item does? Honestly, you don't need to remember what pop item does, right? I mean, if you want, see, if you go remembering all these things, I'll just show you the number of list methods we have. We have append, clear, copy, count, extend, index, insert, reverse, sort, remove. I mean, these list methods seem to be easily digestible. We know what they are doing. See, append, count, index, these are all like very easy on the mind, right? Append we are using so often that you have to know append. There is no escaping append. But something like some dictionary method like pop item, I seriously doubt if you can all remember all these things. It will be a test of memory, as are told, and you don't need to worry about that. But since you asked what actually this update does, let's try out. So d dot update key comma value, is it? That's what it does, huh? Okay, that's wrong. What does update do? Can someone tell me?
There are 3 things like which I remember. Like firstly, either you can pass a dictionary directly, means it will add the keys. If it is there, it will update the thing. Like the other I remember is that we can pass it as a tuple key comma value pair. There's one more thing like I don't remember, like 4 parts were there and 1 part my was wrong. Okay, like
Okay.
that part I don't
So you're saying if I do something like this, it will work.
yeah.
Wow. Okay. I mean, yeah. See, this is like too many things to remember, man. Like, what does d dot help?
So this question is also in graded assignment 6, sir. How to add one more thing So
Yeah, I remember this, right?
in
Yeah.
the option that was two option was correct. One was d dot update and another was d key equal to value. If you
Okay,
want
okay.
that.
So d dot update, or you can pass a list of values, is it? So update d from, if e is present and has a, okay. Okay, wow. So much for one method, huh? Okay, man. So rest assured that if update is there in the exam, then it will come with what update does.
Okay, then we can move ahead.
Yeah. So see, that's the problem of theory exams, that we have to be careful. Okay, so we stopped with tuple. So tuple, when it comes to tuple, right? There is only one fail-safe way to initialize a tuple. Okay, so there are no initializations. Okay, this is a very important point. So tuples can't be modified, right? So they are immutable. So the moment you create one, it stays that way for the rest of your code, unless you totally destroy it and create something totally different. Okay, so in that sense, there is no initialization per se for tuple, in the sense that you can't initialize at one stage of your code and then add to the tuple later on. So for example, I cannot say that t equal to tuple and t dot add or whatever, update or append. So that won't work, right? So if you create an empty tuple at some point of time, it will remain empty throughout your program. Okay, so that is an important point to note. Okay, why is it not getting printed? Okay, so if you try to see what the length of t is, it will be empty and there is no way of changing this. Okay, it will remain empty forever, which means you generally use tuples in your code when you want to deal with some kind of values that do not change at all, right? So for example, if you are doing some mathematical stuff and you want to represent your origin, and let's say your origin never moves, then you can represent that as a tuple. Okay, that makes sense. You wouldn't want to represent this as a set because your origin is fixed, let's say, and you don't want to accidentally do something like origin of 0 equal to 10. Okay, so if you do this with a list, you will escape, or rather you will not realize that something is wrong. But if you do this with the tuple, thankfully it will throw an error message, so you can go and fix it. So this is something you don't want, right? You don't want to move your origin, for example. Okay, so that is one use case of tuples. So you can't grow tuples, you can only define them at one stage in your program and you'll have to live with it. So that's the first thing. Next aspect is you can iterate through tuples as we just pointed out. So t equal to 1, 2, 3. For t in t, you can print t, so on. Right? So is there anything else in tuple that we have not covered? Okay, singleton tuple, this is an important thing to note. Okay, so T open bracket 1 close bracket is not a tuple. Okay, so this is important. So you need to, this is the way you define a singleton tuple or a tuple having just one element. Okay, I think this was there in one of the assignments and this is a point to note. Okay, so at this stage, any questions about tuples, anyone? Okay, if there are no other questions, then we'll discuss one more aspect, which is which is where tuples come in handy, which is this. Sometimes we can use a list of tuples, right? And there is a neat way to iterate through the list. So we can use for x comma y in L, print x comma y. Okay, so the usual way we are used to doing this is for I in range of length of L, then we do L of 0 and L of 1, right? So we don't need to do it that way. We can also do it using this. So it just unpacks each element of the list into the variables x and y, and we are printing that. Okay, so I think that finishes whatever we wanted to discuss on collections. Okay, so apart from collections, what other topics are important? Say functions. Okay,
Binary search through recursion, that portion by searching through recursion.
Sorry?
Searching through recursion.
Searching through recursion, okay. The obvious search, what? So you are referring to the lecture that Prof mentioned, whatever was covered.
Yeah, I have done that.
Okay, is there any specific question that you have?
Like, yeah, there I want to ask, like, only the recursion, the binary searching, like that, what was told, that only we have to do.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Only the binary search and linear search, those two only we have to cover. Yeah.
Only binary search and yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to know both these things.
Through linear procedure and like through recursion.
Yeah, right. So sorry, I didn't get the question still.
I just asked something like that, like those two are only the portion in that recursion, that thing. Other.
Oh, okay. So see, generally you must know how recursion works. That was more of illustrative example how recursion works, but so in general you must know how recursive code works. I mean, what happens if you call a recursive function? Okay, so these are things you must know. Yeah, so
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, can you discuss global and local variables?
Okay, yeah, so functions.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, do you mind checking the chat box once? I had sent a question there.
Okay, yeah, we will take two. Yeah, so I will just quickly answer this. So yeah, pop item. See, we will, if there are questions on pop item, I am not ruling them out, but if there are questions, we will tell you what pop item does. So for example, does pop item remove the key, or does it remove value, or does it remove key value, whatever, I mean, whatever it's supposed to do. So we will tell you what that pop item does. We won't just expect you to remember what pop item does.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So global thing, right? So global and local. I will use my favorite function name. So there are several things that you need to note when it comes to this global and local variables. Okay, the first thing is when does a variable become local to a function? Okay, the rule is this, and this is the very important rule, that whenever a variable is assigned a value, within a function, it becomes a local variable. Okay, I mean its scope is local, becomes local to that function. So what do we mean by that? Right, so first let us not assign it and let's see what happens. So here, if you run this, you won't get an error. Okay, let's also call the function. So here, the scope of X is global, right? What do I mean? So when I say global, again we have to be careful. If will this work? I mean, global, does it mean that anywhere, wherever I call X, will it work? Okay, I will run this and you will see that. Okay. See, nice statements we make and then it stops on us. We're not able to execute. Okay. See, name error, X is not defined. Okay, so this is a fine point. When we say something is global, it doesn't mean that you can access it anywhere from the function. Okay. By global we mean I can access it anywhere within the code after it has been defined. Okay, and notice that this is very important statement to make, right? Just because something is global, that doesn't mean if I go and print X, it should work, right? It will simply throw a name error saying you, hey, look, you are trying to print some value, but you have not defined it. Okay, so the first thing to note is that when you use a variable and call it global, it can be accessed from anywhere in the program after it has been defined. Okay, that's the first point. Now, so clearly line 6 is wrong. Okay, then how come this works? How come this doesn't throw an error when I try to print it? Can someone explain that?
We can access it like.
Yeah, go ahead, Aditya.
We can access it, but like we can't update that thing.
Yeah, something like that.
Right. So let's try to do this. Let's try to. Will this work?
No.
Okay. So this is very important. I mean, it may seem trivial for some of you who already know the thing, but just give me a second, please. 1 second. Yeah. So okay. So the reason this works and the previous one didn't work is that when I call the function foo here, it was not yet sorry, not foo of X, but just foo. X was not yet defined, right? So when I called it in line 6, it threw an error, name error, rightfully so. Now once X is defined and then you call foo, it works, right? Here X is global, it has global scope, so it can be referenced from anywhere. So again, another term can be referenced from anywhere in the program after it has been defined. Okay, so for Python, you can access a variable only after it has been defined, or by defined, I mean assign some value. Okay, that's what I mean by define. So X is now global, right? So let's see what happens when.
So I have a doubt here.
Yeah.
So in Python, if a function call is made, after finishing the function, then only it moves to the next line, or it will continue the function and move to the next line. Like I know in JavaScript that's different, but in Python I have that doubt.
Okay, this asynchronous versus synchronous behavior you are talking.
Is how does it work in Python? I want
So
to know
in,
that.
yeah, right. So in Python, I think so what it does is it finishes the call and then only it moves on.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thanks for the confirmation.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, suppose we write x equals to 1 before
Yeah. Right. So let's come to that.
definition, then it will give print. No, sir, before definition.
Okay, here you mean.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so okay, I have too many comments, so let me remove this. It's now confusing. You want to remove this x equal to 1 also, or let this be there? Okay, maybe I'll just remove this. So what do you expect? Should this run or should this throw an error or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's run it. Okay, see this, the placement of x equal to 1 doesn't matter so long as you call foo after it has been defined.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And sir, after if it's after line 4.
Okay.
After line 4, it will be local variable.
Yeah. So after line 4, there will be two versions of x. This x will live inside the function foo and it will be local to it, whereas this x will continue to remain global, and that is because of this rule. Okay, whenever a variable is assigned a value within a function, it becomes local to it.
So suppose you write x in line 8, you suppose write x equals to 2. Then if you run, then what will be the output?
Okay, let's try that. So what do you expect? What do you expect it to print?
1.
Okay, so this will have its origin and its end within foo, this particular x, because it is local to it. And this x will be accessible from anywhere in the code after it has been defined. But if there is going to be a same variable, if there's going to be another variable with the same name inside a function, then this particular local variable that is the one which will take precedence. So you cannot access this x here.
Yes, sir. And also same will be happen if we write x equals to 2 in line 3.
Yeah, so no matter where you write this, so if you write say x equal to 3 there and you run this, it will still going to print 1.
Yes, it always use local variable.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so now there is one more point here, which is this. So if I move x equal to 1 from line 5 to line 7, and do this, okay, and say print x again. So I'll give you a statement and you must tell me if it is true or false. So I'm saying that the output will be 1 on the first line and 2 on the second line.
Yes.
Is that correct? Is that statement true?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, let's try that. Okay, so this is one of the really counterintuitive things, and including me, everyone will expect it to print 1 on the first line and 2 on the second line. Okay.
Sir, why it's happening?
Yeah, so this is where the rule comes in. See here, when Python, how it runs the code is that there is no notion of it's an interpreted language, right? So you go line by line. Essentially, there is no explicit process of compiling that we could say that at one level. But here what is happening is before Python runs your function, it's going to look for this statement here. So it has, is X, is there a variable initialization happening somewhere? If it is happening, then it cannot be referenced before. So it immediately becomes a local variable.
So sir, suppose we write x equals to 2 after definition and then print
Then
x.
have a problem, right? So see here, I will type this out. This is see, you are trying to reference a local variable before defining it. Okay, see X in as just don't look at how this function is going to be executed. Just think about what X is as far as this function is concerned, right? In X in this function is a local variable, right?
Right, sir.
Because in line 8 you are defining it. So this rule kicks in whenever a variable is assigned a value. Okay, and here is, maybe I have to qualify this, anywhere within a function. So that's very important. So you could even do this on the last line. Say you could do thousands of things on the other lines. You could say print 1, 2, 3. You could define all sorts of variables. But on your last line, you define X. Okay. Then what happens is, you notice that Python starts executing this code for first
From line by line.
Yeah, it prints 1, prints 2, there is no problem. It didn't have any problem. And it could have also executed this. But when it sees a print X, it knows that it is a local variable. And you are trying to access that local variable before you are defining it.
Okay.
Okay.
So sir, if x equals to 10 will be after definition, then the code will works fine.
X equal to 10, where do you want to move this?
After line 6.
Yeah, that will work. See, the only thing you have to ensure is, if you decide that X has to be local, then you must not try to reference it before you define it. You must not say print of
What
X.
if we give global x equals to 10? Will it work?
Yeah, then it will work, because you are saying that X is now a global variable. So you are telling your Python interpreter that, hey, look, I am going to use the same X that I define outside. So don't mistake me. So now I can go ahead and do whatever I want. I can print it, I can assign X later on also, but this, I am giving a heads up for the interpreter that it's going to be global.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, what happens if you add another print X statement in line 13 inside the definition of foo? Will it print 1 first and then 10?
Yeah. Okay. So let's remove these prints. They are confusing us.
Sir, also add a print statement after line 7. Oh yes, it's
Yeah. So
already.
your X is initially 1, then you are printing that X, then X is becoming 10. Let's see if it is. Yeah. So it's 1 and 10 because you are using that global X.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now it's clear.
So
Okay.
in line
Sir,
14,
now,
if we print,
like if in line 14, what would be the print x means?
Okay. What do you expect?
Sir, 1.
Okay. Let's see.
10. We are using global and
See, we have made it global, right? We have in foo, we have made X, we have mentioned explicitly that X is going to be global, and therefore, see, this definition is important. Whenever a variable is assigned a value anywhere within a function, it becomes a local variable. Okay, maybe we have to qualify it. Unless it has been explicitly declared as global within the function. Okay, so this rule should not be taken in isolation. So just because we do X equal to 10, it doesn't become local. Okay, this global X, this statement overrides that. So it says, hey, function foo, please treat x as global, which means reuse whatever values you had here. And this, so wherever you use x inside this code, that will be reflected outside the function also.
So
Sir,
sir,
is
if
there
we haven't line 7 and 8, the line 14 will print 1.
Sorry, can you come again?
If we haven't line number 7 and 8,
Okay, if we are removing the 7 and 8.
then the line 14 print will print 1.
Yes, yes. Now it will print 1 in both the 10 and 1 because x is now local, and this x is different from this x.
Back to the previous question.
Yes,
sir?
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I think both of you are shy. I think
I
there
can
are
ask
two.
something regarding this.
Yeah.
Sir, is there any way to ensure that x equal to 10 stays local, and like when it gets out of the function it uses x equal to 1 again?
Is equal to. Okay, can you come again? See, this x is local, this is global.
Sir, after line 6, if you add global x and then print x, like back to the original one, how it was.
Okay, so you want some way to ensure that.
Yeah, I want some way to ensure that line number 9 x equal to 10 that stays within the local like scope of this definition of foo. I don't want it to change the value of x outside. Is it possible?
Then you must remove the global
But,
x.
but then it will be assignment before reference. I mean reference before assignment.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So in that case, the only thing is you have only ways to pass the value of x. That's why we have this. So this will work. So for example, this will have 110
Okay.
Okay, and yeah, so that brings us, that's also an important point, right? So whenever you pass a value to a function, and this same variable name sometimes can be confusing. Okay, so x is now by definition local. So all arguments to functions are all local variables. So maybe parameters, it's a better way is to say that function parameters are all local variables. Okay, so now x is local. So let's say even if we have x equal to 1 here, you will still get 110 okay, because this x is local.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Suppose after line 13, if we write local x, then print x.
Okay, so that won't work, right? First of all, because there is nothing called local. There's no keyword called local.
Only global.
Yeah, we only have global keyword. Second is the all local variables begin their life and end their life within a function. Okay, so there is no way of the local variables do not have an existence outside a function. It's like virus. I mean, viruses, they don't have an existence outside the body of the host, right? Likewise, they do not have an existence outside functions.
So, sir, in line 14, there is any way to print local x?
No, right? So there is no way to print the local x because it is, so the moment I call a function and the moment I get out of the function, I no longer exist if I'm a local variable.
Okay.
Okay, I hope that is clear. Yeah, any questions here?
No, sir, this is clear. Thank you.
Okay, so with regard to functions, maybe last 5 minutes we have. What else do we have? which is so functions. Okay, so maybe the return value of function is something you have to be very careful about. So for I in say range of 10, print if I doubly equal to 5, return 1. If not, you are going to print I. Okay, so can someone tell me what will be the output of this? So there's no
Sir,
argument.
0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
0,
0,
1,
1, 3, 4, 1.
0,
yeah,
1,
of course,
2,
yeah.
3,
Yes,
4.
sir. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
Okay, let's see. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's what you told, right?
Sir, it will return 1. It
0,
will
1,
not
2, 3,
print 1.
4.
Okay, so 0, 1.
It will return 1.
Okay, yeah, got it. So this is important to note that this return is not the same as break. They have different meanings. Okay, so return will just terminate execution of the function abruptly whenever it's encountered. Okay, so
Sir,
that is
can you maybe try something out? Maybe print the foo, put foo inside the print statement. Print foo and see what comes
Sir,
out.
why it is not showing returning 1?
yeah. So what? It's because we didn't do this as Peter Deep mentioned. So now it will print that one also.
Okay.
Okay, so that is return being important, and then we also discussed local, global. What other?
Sir, shouldn't it avoid printing 0 to 4 once it is inside the print statement and only print what is being returned? That is 1.
Yeah, but this print of I we have, right?
Sir, okay, so foo is executing itself inside the print statement.
Yeah. So foo, what happens is when you call print of foo, foo first gets executed. So when it executes, when it's getting executed, it will print 0 to 4, and then when it hits 5, it's going to return 1.
Yeah, it will return 1 to the print statement.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that is getting printed. Okay, so yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, also can you discuss printing with end separate and formatted printing?
Yeah, sure. 1 second.
So one more thing, like while printing dictionaries, like as you did on the gate assignment, we have to also ensure that we keep a sorting at the end.
Dictionary.
Like there was some sort of thing like before 3.7 version, some behavior is different, and before after 3.7 it's different. So like at the back end there was a code for sorting that value of the dictionary.
Yeah. So see, yeah, that. So we see if you are asked to, if you are asked to print a dictionary, right? That ambiguity will be addressed in the
So
exam.
actually, are we expected to like include that thing also, or like if there's such options, like are we expected to know that thing also, or like should we know that thing?
Okay. See, that's a bit tough to know in advance because it's you won't be expected. So, for example, see what has happened is in the latest version of Python, dictionaries preserve the order in which elements were
Yes,
elements are
yes,
inserted.
definitely, yeah. But in earlier versions, it does sorts it before printing.
Yeah, so you won't be expected to know all that. Okay, so that won't be. You can rest assured that level of detail, version level of detail, we won't go.
And one more thing, like there was also star m, na, like some questions were there, like star operator was used, like print star m.
Yeah. No, that also we won't be. I mean, that That is, we haven't even introduced that to you, right? So
Like actually in graded assignment solutions and even some questions, it was accepting only with stardom. Otherwise, it was not accepting.
yeah. So you can don't worry about that. So that we, unless, see, that we haven't taught at all, right? So print star m we haven't taught. That's like star arguments, star. The some business is there. So that is only for our to evaluate the code that you have written, not for any other reason.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, so this one final thing we will discuss, this, what is this? This
Formatted strings.
Yeah, formatted strings.
And sir, also end with end and separate in printing.
Yeah, see, I won't go into all different methods. We'll just do F strings. Okay.
F string.
Yeah. Okay. F strings are quite simple in the sense that if you want to say print something like this as it is, right, and you don't want to uh, convert this into a string and all that business, you can just use an F string to refer directly to the variable you want to print. Okay, and where it becomes useful is when you use say when you want to represent fewer digits, like I just want to use have 2 digits after the decimal, right? So colon 2 digits after the decimal, and I'm printing a float value. So that is, I mean, this much is good enough, I would say.
Sir, what is the
Sir,
difference
hello?
between 1.2f and 0.2f?
Yes.
So 1.2f and 0.2f, so it is nothing but the column width. So in this case, right, if you type 1.2f, or if you type, say, until 3, until 1, 2, 3, until 4, I think you won't see any difference. The moment you start giving something like 5, you will start noticing a difference, that it's right shifted by 1 unit. Okay, so to better explain this, for I in the range of maybe I won't use I. I will just print the F string directly. So 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, see, this refers to the column width, or how long is your column going to be. So here it's of length 4, right? And that's why this, anything less than 4, it's not going to object at all, because you need at least 4 characters to print 1.23, right? But when you give 5, oh, that's okay. So 6, 7.
So sir, this only represents the character number.
Yeah, how the width of your column, basically. So here the width is anything less than or equal to 4. Python is not going to worry about it, because it needs at least four characters to print 1.23. But when you say 5, then it's going to have one extra space, because it's right aligning it, right? So if you observe, it's right aligning the string, and depending on what your value here is, it will give that many spaces. I mean, 8 minus 4, it will have 4 spaces here, right? So I mean, these are all finer details. You don't need to worry too much about this, but it's good to know.
So suppose in line 5, if we write 0.3f,
Okay, just 0.3f. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, then it will just
Then it will. Yes.
all the.
Yes, sir.
So you could even ignore this. It will work.
So here, if we have like indexing operator or dot format, that is also the in F string only, no? Like,
Yeah, so that also you could try, but as we are running out of time, I think this is we just covered one such method. Okay, and I will also cover end and sep, and then we will close. Okay, so especially end, you have to keep in mind that by default the end value is /n. Okay, so by default the end value is /n. That is why this orange color prompt is going to the next line in the very first place. So if I say end equal to the empty string, then this prompt will remain on the same line. Okay. If I type
And sir, if
/n,
there
then the
is a
prompt will
space
move to the next. Yeah, sorry,
in
space.
end, in end
Okay.
It will take a space.
space,
Yeah, then there will be a prompt between your the string you are printing
one
and
space.
the prompt. Yeah. Okay, so that's all. Mainly you need to know about the end. See, end is very easy to remember. End always adds this string to the end of your input, whatever input you give to the print function. If you are not going to
Yes,
add
sir.
anything, it will not add anything. If you give it one empty, one /n, it will just add a new line. If you don't add end argument altogether, by default it will add a new line. This is all you need to know. Okay.
And sir, end with tab and also there will be a space.
No, so that's what I showed, right? So end with /n will give you, will actually move to the next line. So it'll add a new line. Okay, it'll add a new line here. So this is the same as saying a equal to good /n. Okay, sorry, a equal to good /n, and I print a with an empty string here. So this is what is happening actually. So I print good /n. See, if I just print good, what will happen? It won't add anything at the end. Print will not add anything at the end because end is a null string. Why is it taking so much time? Okay, so for whatever reason, yeah. Okay, so this is effectively what the default print function is doing. It is adding a /n at the end to whatever you print.
Okay, sir, got it.
Okay, so I think we have come to the end of the session.
Sir, separate.
Okay, so separate.
Because I am facing problem at the last character. There also, if we write separate comma, then it's also came in the last position.
Okay, so let's say we have one. You're saying if we do. Okay, are you saying you are getting comma after this also?
Yes, sir. Suppose we are using using any loop and always printing variable separate by comma.
Okay,
Here
so
we have to keep at end, we have to remove the comma.
yeah, so at the last character you have to remove the comma. I think what you are doing is you are using end in a loop. So if you are using say, if you are trying to do this, then you will get a comma after the last one
Yes,
also.
sir.
Yeah, for that, as Aditya mentioned, right, you have to make sure that whenever you come to the last string you are printing, you should say if I not equal to 4, then just print a, else print a with n. So I mean, if you want to avoid, okay, sorry, if I
Separator is equal to null.
what did I do? Sorry, I am
End
like
is equal to null.
You did the opposite thing. The logic
I've
is
done the
just flipped
opposite.
over.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, thanks. So if it is not 4, if you have not reached the end, then you add the comma. If you have reached the end, then you ignore the comma.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm sorry. I
Okay,
think
sir.
we have run out of time. So there will be one final session which will happen on Saturday 4 to 6, I think, which will again be this kind of general open session. Please go through the mock papers. We will be releasing the solutions maybe tomorrow. Okay, so
Sir,
thanks.
you will take this session on Saturday, right?
I'm not sure. I think one of us will take certainly, but
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
okay. Yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you. All the best for your quizzes.